It's the ninth. I've already been talking.
You told me you were 52.
I don't know. I have no idea. I am 58. I am 52 in.
You said that in the summer.
You guys-
and,
I
we
know,
were
'cause I just round up, man, I'm sorry.
You can't round up when you're 51 1/4.
You
Yeah, no
can't,
rounding up.
you just don't have to bother telling people you're old. Be comfortable.
Well, we had a couple issues with a lot of people that were presenting, so.
Oh, I had an issue.
Technically.
I tried.
No, I have.
Sayers.
Through full and small.
I think the best three buses and get an award. Block and be used. Best. We get the similar organizations and basically they were impressed with what we. To have that same ethos, I think that they're probably could or should. There's other organizations that do similar work in other neighborhoods, but they receive 20 to 30,000. We get one right for it. It's like.
Yeah.
So anyways. I got a woman. Basically, a lot of innovative. There's another info, and they call the Jakers woman, who is the one who eventually. Closed us down. She was.
There's
The public defenders, wage approvals have been on finance, and there's other times even on personnel.
Yeah.
It really all is consistent. It should be personnel, right? So it's got set wages.
I recall. There's something.
There's less. It's because of finance. And, where did Andre?
He's in the kitchen.
So.
What was it, Bill?
1895, they started on. And actually, the school.
Yeah.
Social actually were on.
You know what?
site Where the present day school is. Then it's where we were told that. And then school. Rebuilt because they needed to. And it was built in 1925.
It's just Edinburgh parade, not related to an event or a time.
They got him out of.
Like, what do you want me to?
It's a hell of a story.
Yeah, just send it.
You know,
Hold on.
she was very.
It was sent to us, you know.
Yeah. And the kids out. They're. Providing education.
Pretty much what you. Yes.
Why does that have to come in?
Because we all paid jobs.
I know you don't.
Twice.
And I never got my driveway.
Again?
We haven't said here, hit you in your drive.
I tried
I
it.
did. All right,
My wife said-
call the finance committee meeting to order. Here, we take a roll call, please.
Mr. Bale.
Here.
Mr. Drexel.
Here.
Mr. Horton.
Here.
Mrs. Showerman. Mr. Scatella.
Yeah,
Mr. Winarski.
Here.
Chairman Coble.
Here. We had gotten into the new habit of taking public comment at the meetings. I did not call the last time, and I probably should have, just for sunshine purposes. Is there anybody here from the general public that'd like to speak? Anybody here from the public would like to speak? Anybody from the public would like to speak? All right, moving on to item number one, ordinance number 60, 2024 revised environmental fee schedule in the Erie County Department of Health. First read from 10-1. We heard from the health department then. Do you guys have any other additional information to add or anything on that?
Nope, no information to add. We haven't received any, public comment or any outreach about the ordinance at this time.
I was kind of curious just because we're in budget season. Where does this roll up in the budget for those fees coming in as revenue?
In public health.
It's in our, it's in the Environmental Bureau
Okay,
under, fees. Service.
just service fees
And we did increase that $100,000 in anticipation.
to reflect
of
the
this.
change
Yes.
based on the numbers you had last year.
You talking about projected revenue?
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking for that earlier today. I'm like, where does that come in?
0180303.
Okay. Any other comments from council members? Moving with that one, second read. Number two, ordinance number 61, 2024, 14th, 2024, general fund budget supplemental appropriation, $30,000 for new line item for P4 loss prevention grant. Talk, had first read on that last meeting. No notes, no comments. Keep moving with that. Number three, ordinance, general fund budget supplemental appropriation of 12,925 and new line items for vehicle lease donated by Bradford Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. Yes,
I can speak on that. I'm the chief county detective. The owner of Bradford Dodge actually lives in Erie County. For the last 8 years, he's been donating a vehicle to the Erie County Drug Task Force we oversee. It's a 27-month prepaid lease, so there's absolutely no cost to it.
when we take that as a cash donation and then lease it from,
Basically, he provides us a vehicle. We don't have to pay anything,
okay.
so it's prepaid.
Not to get in the weeds, but my car was struck by an EMTA bus and I found out about a beautiful thing called governmental immunity. Government vehicle hits you, it's on you, even if you were parked.
It's on your insurance.
And it's on my insurance company. Congrats on it. Yeah, nice little check. And I noticed in the lease that they require insurance, but how does that work for us being?
So the vehicle would be insured by the county,
Okay,
just like if the vehicle was, we bought the vehicle. So we do pay for the insurance. I think it's roughly $800 a year per vehicle.
Still don't want to be hit by it. Right, it still goes on here.
yeah, that's us. I hope we get a good deal from the insurance company. We never have to pay out other than replace the vehicle.
Thank you.
Concerns, all right. Number four, approval of tentative lease agreement with Moxie 3 Real Estate for space 901 West 12th Street. Suite 205.
That's our voter warehouse.
And that's just a re-up. I actually didn't see that agenda item.
One second.
Hmm?
Would you like a second?
Be consistent
We should have a second.
with the intention being to table and in meeting and then untable, just so it gets 2 reads.
No, just read it. First reading.
I'll just say first.
On
reading of
Tuesday.
resolution.
The last lease we actually literally tabled. Okay. We'll take it for 2 readings. Last couple items are a little different than usual. Normally we have a ordinance or a resolution written for the items that are on the agenda. A couple of these have had some background discussions trying to clarify, and make sure that we knew what was going forward. The first was number 5, the Fly Area Fund to appropriate $50,000 from the general fund. We had a study session scheduled, previously, and, that got canceled. But I did ask, the gentleman from. Jake, I was like, great, no Curtis?
He had a family
Okay.
emergency.
I asked Jake to be here in case anybody had any questions. They talked to us in the spring. Quite extensively. I think that we all are very aware of what they have going on, but I want to make sure that Jake was here. If anybody had any questions, I'll go ahead and start though. That I kind of had some questions about how we were handling this administratively. And Paul, this would be kind of relevant to you. Why are we budgeting this out of miscellaneous expenditures, general government? I would think that this would appear under, grants to other organizations, the same way we give $150,000, or used to give $150,000 to the chamber.
It's a general government thing. I mean, if you, tomato.
I would love to hear from other councilmen on their opinion, but when we give grants to 30 organizations and I think 21 are budgeted this year. It seems like that would be a better place for that to reside as a grant to other organizations.
I don't disagree.
No, I don't disagree.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there's also a grant process that applicants are supposed to go through. And I don't know if this applicant has done that, but they're before you came over here, Paul, there were the previous administration and council had agreed on certain process with procedures to follow when, at the time that this grant application was set up, the grant program, because there was no grant program 8 years ago. And it started with the idea started with the accumulation of monies in the general fund coming in from the state gaming revenue. So the county started offering grants and they set up a procedure. I had suggested back at the time that we reduce those requirements to the administrative code, but it was decided at the time not to. But I do know, and I assume you're familiar with the grant process where all kinds of different applicants apply for that. Was that done in this case?
No, it was not. That was, I think, many members of council, the county executive spoke with Jake and his organization about this program.
So I'm not that familiar with the budget, but where would the grant, under which category would the grant application monies come under?
Well, that's in grants to other organizations. If it was done at the budget time with regard to having it fall under those rules that you're speaking about. But this was something that was done last summer. I guess somebody raised their hand who was in those meetings with the county executive or with Jake's group. Because I know there were some requests on your part as to how you wanted this handled, so. You know, Rock, grants other organizations, general government,
Yeah, I think,
whatever you.
I just think from a
Yeah,
accounting
fine.
perspective, it's probably better to keep it there. It gets lost in the mix amongst, I mean, this is generally where we take in hotel taxes and dispense it to visitors and convention center authority. Makes more sense for it to.
For you, yeah.
Yeah, So-
Mr. Chair, I ask one more question. So there was an amount of money allocated in last year's budget.
No, this year's. This year, next year, and the year after.
So the last year's budget for 2024 did not have any grant money allocation?
Not for this, no, this just
I don't
came
mean for
about.
this, I don't know for this, I mean, there's been a grant column set aside for monies to be applied for by JCAT, all kinds of.
You're
applicants.
correct.
So my question is, we had that same category for the 2024 budget, did we not?
Yes.
Okay, So my question then is, has that all been exhausted?
Well, it was budgeted, yes.
So there isn't any money left there that would cover this particular request?
It would require a supplemental. to take from
Supplemental
the gaming.
appropriation of fund balance to use that to pay this money out.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean,
Okay.
you wouldn't need a
You
supplemental
wouldn't.
appropriation if you already had the money budgeted
Right,
for last
but
year.
nobody
in there.
knew about this 12 months ago.
Okay, I understand that.
came
So
up.
my question is regardless, this comes up, but are you saying that there's no money left in that grant category such that we now have to
No,
get a
everybody,
supplemental
everyone
appropriation?
that was awarded a grant accepted their funds.
Okay, so that's,
Nobody said, no, don't give me my money.
right, so that category has been exhausted. There's no more grant monies left for 2024.
Yes,
I got it. Okay,
I would assume that we would do the supplemental from gaming. The same as all the other grants to organizations are 50,000 and put it as a grant to other organizations. Another topic that I've had some concern with is that the Fly Erie board had seated, the county executive as a member of their board. It is an independent LLC, right? It's an LLC.
Yes.
And I have a little bit of discomfort. Having representation on the board and then later coming back to ask for funding. And a topic that I've been discussing is, well, Tom wrote a draft ordinance to this effect. I would ask for your support that we put the money into a restricted fund until such time that we do not have a county employee or an elected official on that board. I think it's a bit of a conflict of interest, I think, particularly why I was asking about the grants to other organizations. We give the Sisters of St. Joseph $30,000 a year because we believe in the work that they do. We don't ask to be on their board and take control over their operations. The same goes for almost all of it. And, so I would suggest that if we do put an ordinance on the agenda, that we put it with those conditions.
Does that impact ECRA as well? Because isn't Perry Wood on the board as well?
Correct.
Does that impact ECRA as well?
That's the thing about an independent authority that
Heck, we don't have anything to do with us. They're an autonomous authority.
I don't
Yeah,
know, I don't
It's a
know what,
county entity. It's created by the county. It's a county entity.
No. They had a court case and they're autonomous authority. And they get to operate as such.
So we have no
And
oversight.
so
over it.
in this case, what's before us, we directly are impacted. In funding it directly. So, I understand what you're saying. Does reek of a quid pro quo. Any sense of impropriety or anything that looks like it might be improper.
and
Because while we're on that, because it seems to be too common. I see where the Community Foundation and Hammond Health Foundation and Bayfront Eastside Task Force, they're all doing the Washington Square project for homeless people. Every one of them are conflicted on the board. They got the same advice that the DEI got. In that, oh, just recuse yourself. Kick the, you know what, out of DEIC. Now we're gonna sit here and watch Infinite Erie and Hammond Health Foundation, Erie School District. Employed, I mean, I think it's the same attorney. We're gonna do the same thing. I mean, it's so. Something just don't seem right about that. And so to his point. If you're worried about somebody else impacting the board. I think that's an excellent thought. It shouldn't be a county person impacting that autonomous authority or LLC.
And and to respond to that, I mean. That could be a valid critique. I don't disagree with you. From my perspective for county business. What happens when the next county executive Are they changing board positions, or does it still remain that individual? If for some reason next year it gets mixed out of the budget, things change. And again, from my perspective, and why it was kind of important to me for us to view this as a grant to another organization, is that when we invest in people in the community, because we believe in the work they're doing, there's been profound success already. They have a lot to pat their back. And I think that we can contribute without necessarily trying to have a stake in what they're doing. And it's okay for us to say, we believe in what you're doing, here's our contribution.
And I think the same influence that you're talking about could also be executed through ECRA, their board and their director, so. To me,
Which they have 7 members on their board of all.
but we're their oversight.
We don't
They
have,
don't-
we don't have ECRA business before us, so we have a ask.
I think that we're talking about the same topic, so that's a concern of mine, that, still belongs to the county, whether you want, it's autonomous, whatever, but we're the oversight for ECRA. And I think that we have a duty there as well to, make sure that
Actually,
line is clean.
the Pennsylvania Gaming Regulatory Commission is over ECRA and not us. ECRA's probably audited more than any other entity under the gaming rules. So I think it's a fallacy to say that they're under us. Although they were created by us, the courts have clearly delineated the separation of the two. And so that's kind of not true. They answer to Pennsylvania Gaming, they don't really answer to us.
Mr. Chairman.
for taxpayers to know.
Yes.
Um, according to your, your look at this, your view of this. The county shouldn't be involved with any institution outside of Erie County. It has to remain independent. For example, even in this particular case, the county deals with the Chamber of Commerce every year, throughout every year. It's healthy to keep our independence from the Chamber of Commerce. In fact, it's the independence that we enjoy right now is responsible for council taking a look at giving them $150,000. And it wouldn't be so effective and it wouldn't be so transparent if there was a connection between Erie County Council or the county and the Chamber of Commerce. So this issue has come up before over the years with different organizations. And even the appearance of, many people could look at this, for example, and say, oh, I know why Erie County Council is giving $150,000. It's because their county executive is serving on the board. Now, we know that that's not true, but that's the problem. It's the perception. And we are in a better position of monitoring the money and the purpose for which it's being used when we make completely independent of the organization, as opposed to having the county executive serving on that organization.
And I might also add, I believe that if we have established existing policy that's already on the books that says a county employee cannot serve on board authority or commission.
Yeah, in fact,
That is policy, because we've had to remove people.
we had to remove people from the corporation that Barbara heads us. Because it was a county employee on that, and we had to pass an ordinance and amend the bylaws and the administrative code to eliminate any county employee from serving on that board.
Yeah.
Jake, if I can, why is Fly Erie filed as an LLC as opposed to like a 501 or some other organization? It's viewed as a corporation by the state government, right?
Yeah, it was, Tom DePizza set it up, for the flagship opportunity zone. We transferred the name of the flagship opportunity zone into that. It was to have it so it could operate completely independently of the chamber's operation. So any dollars going into the Fly Erie LLC, any actions that are taken by that entity are separate from the chamber committee.
Yeah, so because everything we can talk about is money, ultimately, it's like who owns it, who benefits it, who gets paid off of it. The LLC, first thing, is like, okay, well. So a lot of those questions, I mean, it's $50,000, it's potato chip money in the general scheme of things, as far as the return on what it could offer. But those, they're very valid questions. I would say that in light of the illuminating of those ethical questions, or like, what does it mean to be on the board, be a principal, or be on the board and receive money from the entity that you have potential conflict with? Does it mean that if I just say I'm on the board, but I recuse myself, then I'm good? Is that just for some, or is that for all?
So in this particular case, may I just clarify that the Fly Erie Fund, there's no dollars that flow to the chamber for administration fees. The only dollar usage that it would be used is for support in structured agreements with airlines to get that service here, and for legal fees related to this review of those agreements and any modifications of them. So there's no expectation. We need to use those dollars and keep them in a safe place so that we can meet the potential obligations of the agreements we signed with an airline to keep their service here or attractive service here. So just to clarify, there's, and the board of managers is a, majority rule. So it's a 7-member board. They'll make the decisions in regard to, should we enter into this agreement with, this airline, or should we not?
Mr. Chair, just to add my 2 cents, I don't think there's anybody on council that would deny this financial obligation. But having a county executive, no names, I could be the county executive, but I'll go one step further. It's in my district. If you would have came to me and said, we're gonna put you, we'd like to have you on this board, it's in your district, I would have came back here, talked to our attorney. Could there be a conflict of interest? Maybe not, but it looks awful bad. And just to let us, what are you guys what would you be voting on? Or this board?
We would be voting on the agreements that we would be doing with the airlines.
And that troubles me, that the county's gonna pony up finances, and we're gonna be voting on stuff or that board would be voting on stuff like that. It's just a bad look. I mean, if it's something that they went to the county executive, any county executive says, can you name somebody from the community that you would like to have on the board, or that the county would like to have on the board, like any one of our advisory boards? I think that's a better look than have elected official on a board. I firmly believe that. And I believe in this project from the day one, from the first meeting we had out at the gaming board. I was the only person from the county that was there, if you recall that. And how you guys laid it out, you won me over right away. Why take the chance of screwing it up? Let's do the right thing. And stay out of conflicts of interest, stay out of the bad look of what's going on here. That's perception. That's you're not gonna lose any money. The money's gonna be there, but let's do it right.
I'm curious as to the bad look. What's the?
You have an elected official
Okay,
on this LLC board.
Yeah.
That's gonna be saying, what airlines do you want to get?
they're gonna have input into the discussion, but the group, the 7-member board will make the ultimate decision. So it's one vote of 7.
Only takes one vote of 7 here to turn the tide.
Mr. Chairman. Are there other stakeholders that are on the board that are also, are the stakeholders that are on the board, other stakeholders?
Meaning the mayor?
Yeah, so the mayor was given the opportunity to serve and he said, you know, who would you like? Do you want to serve? And he said, I'd like Chris Groner to serve. Chris Groner was appointed.
And that's appropriate. That is appropriate, and I would
Wait,
suggest too.
Rob. Groner works for the mayor. So he has.
So somebody within the administration.
I was
can serve?
thinking
I'm
it
just
was
curious
redevelopment.
if we're-
No, Chris
He's-
is back at the.
All right, I misunderstood. I was thinking redevelopment.
Should we stipulate that?
All stakeholders or anybody who has a stake that they can serve on, I mean,
You have to
apply.
stipulate anything. I
Yeah.
think it clearly states that a county employee should not be serving on those boards.
And
And I
that's-
think we ought to find that damn ordinance or resolution and see what it says. So I don't know if that means an LLC or but we clearly have the goal was not to have county employees on those boards, authorities, commissions.
The specific language that was discussed was intended that no county officer or employee shall serve as manager, consultant, or as member of a board. And I would say if there is somebody, from that Mr. Davis would seek to have appointed so that he has control, in terms of a representative on that board, I think that would be appropriate, but not a county employee. Not somebody paid by the county of Erie.
So this, I guess the city is appointed.
We don't care about the city.
I understand, Andre.
If Groner is on there
But-
and he's done by the city,
It's on.
I tried to be on city council, I couldn't be
You're
there.
talking about is county boards, authorities and commissions. I mean, that's set up so the county employees can't be on county boards, authorities and commissions. This is not a county board, authority and commission, so that language really wouldn't apply to this at all.
Yeah, and I think our preface, my remark, well. I'll
If I want
preface
to be on the
this
board of the
side.
Humane
by
Society, they don't
saying
rule
the
this, I
goal-
couldn't do that.
The goal, the objective was not to have that type of influence. And to your point, you're probably absolutely spot on with that. So maybe that's something that we should expound upon. And because we set out to do that, we make amendments around here all the time. And I would recommend that statute be amended to include that language.
I
To
think,
have our solicitor, because it just, especially, well, any county executive, any council person, any county employee, so it's not that. But fresh in my mind of any sense of impropriety or conflict of interest is the DEI. And them people wasn't on the board or anything. So they had some business with the board. They got a grant. And he kicked the thing over, or was attempting to. I'm telling you, we just sit there and just watch the meeting. All the captains of manufacturers and titans, they're gonna do a homeless project right here up in Washington Square, 21st and Sassafras. And one by one, they had the same advice from the same attorney, Attorney Wagner. It's not a conflict if you just recuse yourself. Despite being principals, major stakeholders. And it just don't look right. If it don't look right there, don't look right here.
No member on this board stands to gain anything. The community stands to gain here by bringing in more flights, more airlines, more opportunities. The airport is a county and city joint entity. The county executive has appointments to the airport authority, the mayor has appointments to the airport authority. So for the county executive to sit on a board of managers to try and increase flights into
Mr.
this
Chair,
town.
I'm gonna ask that you limit conversation to our guests at this point. For the sake of time. I think Mr. Carroll and Paul and the mayor and Mayor Senate and the county executive. Charlie has clearly stated their point of view, so we can go back and forth around about it. Our colleague has asked for any action to be placed in a restricted account. I'd work out some language. It doesn't appear that we're gonna work that language out right here this evening. But we brought Mr. Rao here to speak on that.
And
Unless
just,
Mr. Rao has anything, we should move on.
just to add to what the money isn't in doubt. It's just that one issue.
I get it. I totally
You
understand.
you understand that, right now.
I don't know that it's necessarily about that the county executive or one of us would have something to gain. It's just the financial connection, there's no reason to put yourself in that position.
So there's not actually an ordinance tied to this yet. They had asked to put it on the agenda. I just included it as a discussion item, so we can have this conversation.
I would ask that our solicitor prepare such an ordinance. Look at the ordinance and prepare one to would reach our objective. And that verbiage line up.
Mr. Chair, I could have that ready so that, we don't waste another week or 2 weeks. So that we could get it on the agenda this Tuesday for a first reading.
Also on the agenda as a discussion item, and this was a little bit my fault on a time crunch.
Are you moving on from this one?
I believe so, unless you had something further to
Well, I
add.
just wanted to say, Jake, we had a little bit of a discussion about this when I talked to you, but the reason he was even asked to be on there at all is you felt that the stakeholders that were contributing the largest amount of money should be on the board, right?
Right, that's the board of managers,
So
the
you had
bylaws is
asked-
comprised of the major contributors, so. The county, based upon the conversations that we've had with the county executive and council. To Terry's point, we knew that there was support for supporting the Fly Erie Fund. So the appointment was, from our perspective, as a major investor into the fund, it made sense to appoint someone from the county. The county executive position seemed to make the most sense. That's why he was appointed.
Thank you.
So we're selling appointments.
Not selling, then you'd be saying that your
We're offering
insurance is.
appointments for money.
No, that's the way the bylaws are written. It is to be comprised of the major contributors, because if they're putting the majority of the money into the fund that's being made to make decisions.
So he has to go
It-
next to decisions.
It makes sense that you might want to set it up that way. I just, from a governmental perspective, and you could appoint the chair of council, you could appoint the liaison to the airport authority. There's a whole bunch of people that would be stakeholders, and I just consider it a better position for everyone if we just give you money. I trust you. I think you're gonna do a good job. You have done a good job. And that's my point. But if, for sake of time, we can move on, okay. So we'll probably put something on the agenda for that at the next finance committee meeting. So again, the next item is also a discussion item. It's a little bit my fault. A couple weeks ago, this was asked to be put on the agenda, and what we were sent from the administration were 2 quotes for assessments of a property. But we weren't really sure what they were looking for, resolution to approve them or whatever. And so they kind of got held up, because our office was unsure of what they should be preparing related to that. Got clarification from the administration, the purchasing code requires that, prior to any sale or purchase of a property, that the county obtain 2 sealed bids. Not bids, appraisals. And that the county executive chooses the appraisers and that we approve the expenditure. So, we have 2 quotes that we've been provided. Monday, I think it was, I was going through trying to help draft a resolution for that approval. And what kind of happened was, one appraisal listed 6 properties, the other one listed 7. 3 of them didn't quite match, and it's like, hey, what's going on here? We didn't get response on that until about an hour after our agenda was drafted, so there's not a resolution to approve them. But we have the 2 quotes now that they resend it to us and align them so that they match the same 6 properties. For your reference, I did create these handy dandy little maps. I believe that these are all the correct properties.
That Pleasant Ridge Manor East. Lake Pleasant Road.
The property that Edwin L. Thomas resides on. Appears to be, there was a conflict there, and I meant to get clarification, I had not yet. That parcel is listed as 18.57 acres. And pretty sure I had the parcel number lined up, and that parcel's 13 acres, so there might be a discrepancy there. Are you aware of the plans?
Not what you're saying, 18 to 13, I can look into that.
Yeah, I can show you here on the map.
Okay,
I believe I've got the right parcel
Cause I know
selected.
you brought that up the other day, Doug Matthew went down and talked to, Frank Wojtek in assessment. And that never,
Well, and on the assessment map, there's a little carve out on the north side of that property
okay,
that doesn't appear to have a parcel. No, it does have a parcel number, but it's a really strange carve out. And I looked at it on Google Maps and I couldn't figure out what that carve out would be.
show me that rock and I'll talk to Mike tomorrow morning about that.
So I put it on the agenda because the chair and I had committed to getting it on the agenda. And it wasn't until the last minute, I'm trying to write a resolution, like, wait a minute, which of the parcels are we doing this for? Because the two quotes did not match. The quotes that are in front of you do match now. So there for discussion.
Mr. Chair, I could easily put together an ordinance for that as well. For next Tuesday.
From my reading of the purchasing code, it just required approval. You think that should go as an ordinance or as a resolution for approval?
Well, I think it's an ordinance because we're spending money.
Okay.
But, and to that point, let's not forget that first council has to decide whether it's in the best interest of the county to sell these properties in the first place. If county council is not interested in selling these and don't think that it's.
Well, we can't even
It's
lease
just
them.
for
We can't
selling.
even lease them or do anything with
You
it.
don't-
Do any-
Well, I know, but you're still spending $50,000. Why would you spend $50,000 on appraisals of property you're not gonna sell?
It's 8-4, but yeah.
Because you can't even lease them.
Well, I was a little confused by that, because that had been said by Mr. Senate. He said, we're not sure what we want to do. We could appraise them and sell, or we could appraise them and determine a lease value. But my reading of the purchasing code for lease property just says that the county executive is to determine the best market value for the property. If that section of the code did not appear to require an appraisal to do so. And the sticking point, and maybe the solicitor can speak on this, purchase code specifically says that those two bids will be sealed. I'm reading that as you get it from the appraiser in a sealed envelope, and it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat, that like, if you open that bid or that appraisal to know what that value, you've spoiled it, and so by looking at the appraisal, you could only lease it. Unless you disagree.
The language is a bit ambiguous.
It is, okay.
I read it the way you just read it, and I've also read it the other way. I don't have the language in front of me, but it is somewhat ambiguous.
Well, it wouldn't lead us to $7 a damn square foot,
No, not,
so
no,
whatever it is.
well, it depends on who's the buyer and big deal.
So this will be on our next agenda is either an ordinance or a resolution, and I'll leave that to the solicitor for writing it up, but I just wanted to get it out there because this had been requested to be put on the agenda several times, wanted to at least be able to speak on it. If you have a question, the parcel on Lake Pleasant is where the Edwin L. Thomas facility is currently occupied and used as juvenile detention, right?
Part of that land.
So are we entertaining a
We
partial?
just wanna see what's what.
And then, so you guys had sent us the two quotes. Is there an existing line item that you're looking to
We're
spend?
gonna
You
pay
don't,
for it out of economics development, they have some money left in one of the line items.
okay, thank you, because I wasn't sure. I was like, do we need to also supplementally appropriate? Okay,
So
that helps us figure out what we need to do. When it was just two quotes, what are we doing with this? You know, a lot of times we get the justification paragraph,
There
and all
was
of
a
that.
memo
Just because
Good
he's
stuff.
over there.
Okay. Megan, do you have something to add?
Is it need a new line item?
No. So then,
Anybody have any questions or concerns or
I guess
anything?
the
I would note purchasing code. While you can put it out for bid after getting two appraisals, you can put it up for auction. Any final sale is contingent on our approval. So even if it does
I'm looking at that.
do something, it is. Says it's realized, you approve it. But want to make you guys aware. And then Paul, analysis.
the ordinances that are in front of you, if they're approved, the county is in compliance with the requirement of the 2 months. General fund expenditures and the unrestricted fund balance by $27 million, 992,842.
Come on, you
I
might,
don't need
I
that.
used it once to start the meeting.
Like to call a personnel meeting to order. First on the agenda, ordinance number 2024. Appointed official salary ordinance, full-time assistant public defender.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Nicole Sloan Connerly, and I'm before you asking for permission to fill a vacancy. This vacancy arose about a year ago. We did have a part-timer filling in until they became ill and went off on FMLA. We did find someone to fill that position. They have moved up here from Pittsburgh and is working per diem so far and is an exceptional employee. So we're asking for 3% over posted, which is $36.75 an hour, $71,662.50. Did I go too fast? Sorry.
Any questions, council? None, we'll move on to number 2. Possible appointment of Susanna Faulkner to the Erie County Land Bank, term to expire December 31st, 2024. Brought forward by Mr. Copeland. You replacing somebody that it's
Yeah, trying to think of the
such a
gentleman,
short?
Mike, I forget the gentleman's name, he had resigned. In the spring and I held to get that filled and that was a tough one. I'm glad to finally get that done. Especially because they got a lot of important work coming up.
Thank you, sir. Number 3, possible reappointment of Dr. David A. Rubino to the Erie County Community College Board of Trustees. Term to expire August 31st, 2030. Brought forward by the county executive.
It's gonna be Erie County's 3rd Catholic college. They got Rubino over there, Victor. And it's starting to look like all the people who were against the college are running the damn college.
That's a 6.
I'll just put a pin in that.
6-year term.
Yeah, stop me when I speak out of sorts.
And number 4, table item ordinance number 13, 2024. Appointed official salary ordinance director of administration for 3/2/13/24, table 2/27/24.
Mr. Chair. Unless anybody wants to speak on that, I move that we have executive session to talk about some legal issues.
So, I hear a motion.
Motion again.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge Mr. Bukowski, who formerly sat on council, who sent each of us a letter about a very important project that they're doing to. I would ask that you would all review that letter from him. I want to thank you and Sarah Reed for all the wonderful, wonderful work you and Dr. Dixon and Mrs. Barr do over there in our community. I don't think there's a neighborhood, a district or that you all don't impact. So I'm grateful.
Thank you, Andre. It's a pleasure to see you all this evening, and I will speak before you on Tuesday,
Awesome.
because I'm on. I wanted to speak tonight, but they said I couldn't speak, so.
Right.
And I felt with your work you're doing, you don't need me in your way right now. But the one thing I want to just say very quickly, in an hour, we'll also be getting an award from Renaissance Erie for adaptive reuse of the St. Anne building.
Oh.
So that may not mean much to some folks, but it means a lot to us because it's 2 years of pretty hard work on a 100-year-old building. And we've helped now, we're actually this year when we're done, because we're just in the first 2 months, we will have helped about 325 kids at that site.
Well, it's important to us too, and if you give me the details on that, I'm sure I've had some of it, but I'd like to do a citation.
I was gonna ask if somebody would when the time's right, but you're getting close to 100.
Yeah, time is right.
I'm a historian, so look out. So anyway, I'll get it
Oh,
away.
He's a former county council person.
20 years.
Before we go on the exec, I wanted to bring something up to everyone. People have been telling me that Judy Lynch's health is not doing very well. And, having a hard time, and as a founder of our home rule charter, as a 20-year county executive, I think that deserves some recognition perhaps in her lifetime. There's been a conversation and talk about maybe naming one of our facilities for her. Or something along those lines. Yes. Think on that and think about what would be appropriate. I think it'd be really important to take care of that.
And Rock, if I may say something, it would be a good, because I saw her last week and she actually went up, was, most.
If anybody wants to-
Tell them it was Thursday. Got a little girl waiting on me.
I'm gonna go over to